Hello. So today, I thought I would answer some questions that I see popping up in the comments about clarifying the idea of the diminished family and finding some applications. So getting right into it, the diminished family basically is what in more conventional circles is referred to as the octatonic scale or the symmetric diminished half whole. So you would go to XYZ school and they'll say you have a half step, then a whole step, then a half step, then a whole step, half step, so on, and it's a symmetrical scale. And it's got two sides. It's got the side that starts with the half step and the side that starts with the whole step. Okay, now the side that starts with the half step is good for seventh chords. And the side that starts with the whole step is good for diminished chords. Now, why family? Because this Barryan class prefers to explain it in a way that tells you about the origin of the scale. And really, describing it as half whole might describe the scale, but it doesn't tell you anything about where it came from. And that is very important in order to really understand it, to apply it. And where it came from was basically you took a diminished chord, and there's another video about this for a deeper dive. You can look at my video on Barry's diminished genealogy, which chord begat which chord, which then begat which chord, and so forth. But the short version for now is you take a diminished chord, and if you lower each chord tone by a half step, you'll end up with a dominant seventh chord. This C sharp diminished, C sharp, E, G, B flat. Lower the C, you get a C7. Lower the second chord tone of E, you get an E flat 7. Lower the third chord tone of G to G flat, and you'll get a G flat 7. And lower the fourth chord tone of B flat to A, and you'll get an A7. So when you put the roots of those dominant seventh chords together, C, E flat, G flat, and A, you end up with another diminished seventh chord. So really the scale consists of two diminished seventh chords put together, which gives you that half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step idea. So that's the origin of the scale. And then in the diminished genealogy, we also found out that you could raise a note and get a minor sixth chord. You could lower two notes and get two different major sixth chords. And you could lower two consecutive notes and get a dominant 7 flat 5 chord. So all of those chords actually work in the diminished family. And the diminished family is really the four key centers that are outlined by lowering or raising a chord tone of a diminished. So how would you apply it? So here are three different kind of applications, more or less, that you can really use to color some chords really beautifully. So here's one. Let's take a look at this chord. This is, a lot of people look at this and say, oh, that's a C major with a double root, right? Well, what it really is a C sharp diminished with the root of one of the dominants. The C is a root of the dominant. And if I resolve this C up a half step and this C down a whole step, I end up with essentially an E diminished seventh, with B flat here being the drop 2. For more on drop voicings, there's a video on that too, which I'll link to. So really, So I've created some nice movement based on the family. C being in the family of E diminished. And since I can do that 4 ways down a diminished 7th chord, I can do something like this. So that was based on an A triad. Now, a minor third down is an F sharp triad, and then an E flat triad. So, right? So how would you use that? First thing that comes to mind. I look at you and suddenly something in your eyes I see soon begins bewitching me. It's that old devil moon. Now, the beauty of this one is I could move any one of these notes down a third and do the same thing this way. So here's, instead of a C triad, I now have an A, E, G, and C. I move the C down a third to get to the A, and I can do the same idea, moving up a half step here, down a whole step here. And the same idea. Look at you and suddenly something in your eyes I see soon begins bewitching me. And here. And onward, I could do an F sharp. Now that's all on C7, because again, this octatonic scale, which is kind of what I guess most schools call it, or the prestigious unnamed school that I went to called it a sim-dim, symmetric diminished. So that pertains to a C7. It also pertains to an A7. Here's an A7 chord. And I could do that same. And resolve to D. I could do an F sharp 7. Leading to B. E flat 7. Last one, C obviously to F we did already. And of course all the variations. And not only can you do it on C, A, F sharp, and E flat, every one of those you can do it based on a C triad, an E flat triad, an F sharp triad, and an A triad. So you have all those colors to mix in. So more variation on this particular concept. You don't have to start with the triad. You can, or just move like that. You could just hold this triad and then, right? You could do, here's a good one. Okay, so there's, if I try an A triad, right, with a B flat, there's one of those notes. And there's so many of these. So it's mixing in roots of the dominant with the diminished note. So that's one application of the diminished family. Another one is to modulate. Barry might go a scale of chords, but instead of going to the 4 major, he'll go to 4 minor. The 4 minor also functions as the 2 chord of E flat. So we went from C to E flat. C and E flat are in this family, in C's family. I went 3 chords of E flat up to the 2 of G flat. Next stop's going to be A major. And then back to C. And then down you could go directly like this. And that could serve as a really pretty ending of a song. And then we did Devil Moon. Oh, devil moon that you stole from the sky, it's that old devil moon in your eye. Just when I think I've never done this before. I don't even know what it's going to sound like. Free as a dove. Oh, devil moon deep in your eyes, blinds me with love. Boy, that doesn't sound too good. Well, okay, so that experiment didn't work out too well, but I don't care. I just wanted to show you that you could do all kinds of stuff, you know. Some interesting modulations, and you know, it's something to experiment with. If I knew how to edit, I'd edit that out, but anyway, and then one last application of this diminished family idea is you could do the different chords in the family to harmonize a simple phrase. So one example that Barry uses in class is the beginning of My Romance. Okay, my romance. So we're in the key of C, the people's key, and this E, you're really playing a G7, right? The family of G7. Here's your scale. The family of G7 is G, B flat, D flat, and E. So I could play an E6 on top of this G7, E6, maybe for the F I could play a B flat or a D flat, and resolve to C. So you can see you can create all beautiful movement between an E6, a B flat 6, a D flat 7, and a C major. My romance. Very pretty one there. Now here's a flat 3 diminished, and you can totally do that first thing we did here. Right, you just got to know this particular scale. The moon in the sky, my romance doesn't mean to have the moon. Family. E6 with the G. Anyway, I hope that clarified a little bit about what diminished family means, and you know, please like, subscribe, visit my Patreon if this is useful to you, and you know, and happy chording, everyone. Thank you.